You guys, welcome to Cultivate. We're together. This is so fun. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. To those of you who are new to the world of Seeds of Exchange, you are in for a treat because this day, this is what we have been cultivating as an organization for 20 years. Just bringing people together, sharing stories, inspiring one another to find ways to light up the world with hope and peace and connection and belonging and love. And the greatest of these is love. So, welcome. I'm just going to give you a quick context and framework for how this is all going to go and a little housekeeping, and then we're going to dive into the good stuff. So first of all, does everyone have a seat around the table or in here that wants one? Or are the people that are where they are, do you like being where you are? Okay. Can I ask Brandon if you would please I need 2 more stools up here. Thank you. So housekeeping. This is family style, like the best kind of family style. Meaning, if you need to go to the restroom, if you need a drink, if you get hungry, if you need to stretch and move around, if you want to sit in the sun because you'll be able to hear from it, just make yourself comfy. It's not meant to be formal. It's not meant to be anything other than come and plop down and be how you be. Be where you be. And we're just going to roll. 3 hours. We are going to end at 4, I promise. I know a number of you have some places to be at 4:01. No. And some people have to leave. Do we not have step stools?
Will you tolerate these?
No.
This is how she gets. All that stuff I said at the beginning. I can tell when she's mad.
This is fine. This will be fine.
You want me to start this?
No, thank you. Okay, so family style. I told you, keeping it real. I know there's more stools. I don't know where they are. So if anyone knows where our other stool is.
I just found it.
Thank you. I knew it. So the restroom, if you haven't found it, it's just across the kitchen on the left. And some people are going to be coming in a little late, coming in hot. They'll just join, and some people have to leave early. Go with our blessing and our virtual hugs. Okay? Okay. I think that's enough family style. And then for those who got here and you didn't know what the heck is happening, let me just tell you. Maybe you had a friend that said, come to this thing, but you don't know what's happening. So if that's you, raise your hand. Okay. We got some people in the house that are in for some good stuff. So I'm going to guide us through a little welcoming and an opening. And then I have invited 11 amazing human beings to share their stories in 10 storytelling sessions. The newlywed beautiful pair here are sharing their session. That's how we are into 2. That's 2 to 1 here. The 2 shall become 1 storytelling session. That's so cute. So there'll be 10 storytelling sessions, each for 10 minutes. Okay? So for those who are familiar with TED Talks or Pechakucha or some of these really cool ways to be able to, thank you, B, so much, really cool ways to be able to share in a really tinctured little pocket of time a story that we all know could go on for hours and hours, because each of these people, as you're about to hear, you're going to want it. We want you to want more. That's what's going to happen. And so maybe we'll do that in the future where we'll have an extended kind of time for us to be able to talk about the big hour, 90-minute story of these storytellers. The other thing I want to say about storytellers is this. Each and every one of you here could be here, and I think will be here in the days to come. Like, I just think there's something so cool about inviting one another, like literally sharing the mic, you know, and taking our turns with the microphone in the spotlight. And for those that makes you scared, I'm even more excited to have you be up here with us, okay? So, fair warning, all storytellers. I mean, I do believe that's one of the things we're cultivating, is this reminder that each and every one of us is unique, has a one-of-a-kind voice, has a one-of-a-kind purpose on the planet. We will be figuring out what that is till our last breath, and how fun to be able to journey together as we make our way doing the unique and one-of-a-kind. Where's my Aunt Deb? The kaleidoscope. She's not here right now. Her word, yeah. The kaleidoscope. It's like the kaleidoscope of our life, where I don't know if you guys can remember that as kids, but you would turn it, and as light enters in or new colors enter in, you kind of see something beautiful and different. And I think that's how our life is all life long. The kaleidoscope of our life is just going to keep taking shape. And there are times where it's more fuzzy and foggy than clear. And if that's where you are, you have so much good company, and me and probably a lot of other people. Like, I just believe so profoundly that we make our way together. That's why we share stories, so you can be like, oh my gosh, what that person said, I needed that nugget from my heart or my back pocket to now take with me into my life. So I think there'll be a little bit of interwoven through there, some moments for reflection. For anyone who's terrified of like sharing, we love sharing in this whole Seeds of Exchange Kula community, but we're not doing it today. So for those who didn't want to, you're welcome. Okay? We did that intentionally because we just decided for the moments that we normally love to have the sharing go on, we want to just invite a moment of quiet, pause, reflection, but we are going to invite you to share whatever gets sparked in you with someone here before you leave, or with someone when you get home, because there is something really powerful that happens when you give voice to what's stirring and someone witnesses and reminds you later, like, remember when you went to that thing and you said this was important to you, and they help bring it to life for you. So that's all the housekeeping. Any questions? Okay. So for those of you that are new to Seeds of Exchange, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Seeds is. We've been around for 20 years, and I know that because our daughter, was a couple months old when we started Seeds. Brandon in the back, can you give a wave, is my man who if you don't know him, couldn't do it without his partnership. It is truly a family mission that we have been building and growing, and I think we will just keep building and growing it forever and ever and ever as we go along the way. But for now, how I would say what Seeds of Exchange is it's really rooted in love. It's rooted in this commitment, fundamental belief that each and every person on the planet is loved. Each and every person on the planet belongs, is important, is significant, is like we need in the table, we need in the circle. And each and every person on the planet has a unique and one-of-a-kind way to be love, to bring love. And we plant seeds on like invitations to do that. So whether it's sitting around a table like this and listening to stories that you might learn something about yourself or the world, or whether it's coming back this summer when Fatima is going to share her story and they're going to have some Ethiopian food, and learning about, child marriage in Ethiopia and what it's like to be an American citizen in our political world right now that has been here for 30 years and came here with the love of her life and has been forging a really beautiful life with us, happily. We've been in it for about 3 decades together. So sometimes we do stories in that way. Sometimes we share stories about human trafficking, and I wrote a book about it, and so we do a lot around anti-trafficking because I talk a lot about how when causes become personal because you come to fall in love with someone who has been impacted by a cause like human trafficking, all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I'm awake and now I want to do something to fight against that thing because I know and love someone who is impacted by that. And so we're all about how to share stories, invite each other to rise up, to stand tall, to do what we can together. And we do have a special heartbeat for those who are on the margins, who are particularly vulnerable, who are really suffering in a particular manner, that without someone coming in and helping, providing food, providing shelter, providing education, providing freedom if they're needing a rescue, like those are the people we really, really, really love to do whatever we can to support and reach out to together, because no one can do any of that alone. So that's a little bit about seeds. And then the other thing I'm going to say, for those that have been around seeds, you might have heard this is it an acronym or a thing you told me? It's an acrostic. I think I've been calling it acronym. It's an acrostic. A place of pause, or a POP. So I'm going to start us off with a place of pause, which is very, very simply this. Our lives are busy. We can move real fast without breathing. We can zing in our minds from the time we wake up until the time we go to bed, and literally drive fast and talk fast and all the things fast. So I just believe if we're going to be able to receive the goodness that's about to come your way from these storytellers, we have to be present. So I'm just going to take us through a little reading from my book, Soulfully Ablaze, and then we're going to take just a moment to catch our breaths and breaths, catch our breaths and breathe and be present so we can receive whatever is meant for you on this treasure hunt. So this is a segment of Soulfully Ablaze, which is made up of 40 readings and a guided place of pause, or a POP. Like the title of the book is, the heartbeat of it is to light up your life in the world. So Soulfully Ablaze, a 40-day journey to light up your life in the world. So friends, I just invite you, if you like to close your eyes, do that. If you like to I would invite you to take a couple of very deep breaths. And I'm just going to read this little excerpt that's kind of a blessing from me to you. Dreams and desires. When you dream big, you are awake. You are strong and fierce. You hold your head high. Your eyes are direct and focused. You speak clearly about what matters to you. You keep it real, and you look for and find the same in others. You are at peace among the oft-present imperfections, discomfort, and unknown. Fog and confusion lessen, and they don't matter so much when they come into view. You listen and act with conviction and inspiration. You discover the things that have separated you from yourself and others decrease. The ways you think and talk about what matters in life becomes captivating and expansive. Tending to and fanning the flames of your dreams and desires are some of the starting points that we are talking about today at Cultivate. Look for them, explore them, trust them, my friend. Yes, trust them. Whether itty-bitty or whopping dreams, they offer some clues for your unfolding story. And my friend, share them too. Yes, your dreams are meant to be shared. They rarely grow when kept inside you. They need to be brought out into the open, to be spoken, to be exposed to the light of day and the real in the world. Sharing your dreams can be daunting and leave you feeling vulnerable. And yet what happens as a result of sharing them is pure magic. You will be lit up. It may feel as though your dreams are dormant. You may have become disconnected from your sense of your palpable purpose. Or maybe you don't see a way to connect those dreams with your everyday life. Not to worry. They are with you right now. They may just need a little bit of nurturing, of cultivating, of gentle encouragement to come on out. In Nepal, they have a word I love, particularly when it comes to things like this that cannot be rushed or forced. It is bistari. Bistari, which means slowly. Bistari gives us permission to move gently, intentionally, and without rushing. So my friend, whether you have a hunch, no idea at all, or laser clarity about your small or big dreams, we are cheering you on. Wherever you find yourself right now, it's good. It's plenty. More will be discovered and uncovered in the days to come. Bistari. So, I'm just going to read the first part. So a pop, a place of pause. I find it valuable to start with a B, which is be still. Surrender. Take a breath. Another one. Soften your face. Close your eyes. Whether you feel the kindling of an old dream, the pulsing and possibility of a new one, or the disappointment of seemingly dormant dreams, let it all go. Those things are all important, but they can be tended to later. Here and now, it's about stillness and silence, peace to your heart, your mind, your soul. Just be for a moment. And I invite you to open your hands and just kind of cup them if it feels right to you. And if you know what it is you hope for today, or you have a sorrow or an ache, or you have a need for provision, something tangible. I know a few of us in the room need a job and some provision of finances, and be specific. And I just invite you to be audacious and to just cup your hands as an act of open-hearted desire that whatever you need, I pray and bless, is met. Today, and if not today, just on time. And take a deep breath, and we're gonna welcome, friends. We're gonna dive in. Oh my gosh, everyone in this room, it just is about to make my heart explode. So, I want to just say a few things about the Storytellers, the 11 that you're about to hear from. And just a reminder, if you just came because someone invited you and you don't even know what you came to, the invitation, even though it has the word creativity in it, It's just people that I love that are doing such cool things, and they are such cool people. It's like who they be is cool and what they do is cool. So this is not so much about like emphasis on the doing. It's like lean into their hearts and be like, wow, that person's a cool person. And again, the reminder and invitation is to be looking in each of the storytellers for the treasure that's meant for you today. And I believe, my picture, one of my favorite phrases is a treasure trove. And that's what I kind of believe. It's like as you were holding your hands open, I just picture you leaving today with your hands just like spilling over with treasure of connections and of inspiration and encouragement and whatever you were holding in your hands to just be met. This is not going it alone, you know. So please be ready for there's lots of, I purposefully ask people from different walks of life, doing different things in so many ways to be able to come and grab a mic to just be this picture of the kaleidoscope. Okay? So what we're going to do, how it's going to work is I'm going to invite them up in either pairs or trios. And they're just going to sit here while one at a time, they take the mic. And what a cool picture of, or we'll stand. We'll decide if we want to sit or stand. Sometimes I will be having a conversation with someone, and that's why we did this living room style. Like imagine we're just in a home and like chilling out, talking in a living room. So very informal. And then sometimes the person or the duo is just going to take the mic and talk for 10 minutes. Time for the storytellers. My Aunt Deb, can you raise your hand? Is in the back. She is our storyteller our timekeeper with a smile for the storytellers. And Brandon's joke was, is it going to be like the Oscars when 10 minutes come, you're going to put this swelling music on and it's like, they get drowned out? No, that's not going to happen. But storytellers, including me, storytellers, if you hear this chime, it's not going to be that loud, yeah. That means you're over time, and it's time to wrap up and leave us all waiting, for the more. 10 minutes is so, I know that is such a short time to talk about what really matters to you. If you want to look to Deb for like a little clue of how much time you have left, she's, just look at her and she'll give you the minutes you have remaining, okay? So, and we're like, we're keeping it real and informal. It's like we're going to do our best so that we don't stay here till midnight because these storytellers have so many things to say. So that's our housekeeping thing on that. The last thing I want to say is if you'll look at your little paper bag, a little bit of the treasure trove here. In the dreams and desires I just read to you from Soulfully Ablaze is a little excerpt here. There's some little Post-its here, and there's pens at the table in front of you. If you're like me and you love words and you just want to be jotting down things as people are talking, like jot them on the Post-it, on the paper here, on your bag, like just so you remember the things that are capturing your attention. And then in there are lots of little things that you get to take with you from our storytellers that you will soon meet. At the heart of this truly is about connection. So I will follow up with y'all after this with emails and phone numbers, emails and or phone numbers in any of the ways that the storytellers want you to connect with them after today. So that if you're like, wow, I got to connect with her about that or him about that, you will be able to do that, and I'll do whatever I can to bridge that. Because this is truly, that's the treasure trove is the connection. So please feel free to use that as we play. So I think that is going to be it. I'm going to invite up our first trio of storytellers, Nadja and John and Mama Sue. Come on up. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. These guys have a shared 10 minutes. You have a full 10 minutes. Okay? Now, one little, just here. Do you want to share the mic or each have a mic?
Maybe each have a
Yeah,
mic.
I think so. No, at least when I tested, no. I said no. So, pardon me. This is for our Facebook Live to our many millions of followers. One.
So cute. Is it Raquel? Oh. I got excited when she said Raquel.
Sorry, I've got to say one more thing. So, by way of introduction, I'm going to have Nadja and John start, because Nadja is doing all the things this weekend, and she has to leave right after her storytelling session. But I just want to say one thing about these two. I have been a part of this one's life since before she was born. And anyone who has known Nadja for her whole life, raise your hands.
There's a couple.
We have, you have.
Yeah.
So,
Pretty sure you were in the room when I was born,
she
right?
has been, like, I could talk till midnight about her. She's been the biggest blessing. They got married a year and a half ago.
2 years,
2
actually.
years ago in Brazil. Who went to the wedding of John and Nadja in Brazil? Raise your hands. Mama Christine is here. John's mama, raise your hand. We love you. So John and Nadja, what I have asked them to share with us about is this whole idea of being forged together. You know, as a duo, the two shall become one. But they're both artisans, literally artisans, in what they make in life, but also how they live their lives and build community and what they do with their days from the minute they wake up until the minute they go to bed. So I love you guys and thank you.
I love you. Thank you, Tia.
Thank you, guys. Oh, I'm learning mics. Had a problem during our wedding where I spoke too closely, so I'm going to try my best. And my name's Jonathan de Van Dies. This is my wife, and we're honored to be here to share. And thank you, Sarah and Brandon and everyone else who helped set up. It's really comfortable being up here, ironically, and super fun, so we're excited to share.
Our story in particular pertains to metal. So we both work with metal. And that started in COVID. Some people during COVID, picked up little hobbies like binging Game of Thrones or whatever else you did during that time. My family binged Game of Thrones. But John decided, as he was away from football, he played football at CU, that he was going to pick up blacksmithing. And so he has created and forged very beautiful chef's knives. And he carves the handles himself. And they're Damascus, which means that the metal folds over many, many times. And he was doing that. And I was living in New York City post-college. And I had a girlfriend of mine. I was working in nonprofit. I was interning at the United Nations, thinking that I was pretty much gearing up to work in a similar vein as to what Sarah does. And I just had a girlfriend come up to me. She's incredibly prophetic. And I asked John before we got up here, I said, "Can I talk about God in this room?" And he was like, "Yeah, you're good." So I'll say that she was prophetic and beautiful in that way. And she just said, "Nadja, you're supposed to be in jewelry." Out of nowhere. She was saying, it's international, it's creative, and that's just what you need to do. And I am okay. Didn't have any plan to do that, but then of course when COVID hit, and I was out of a job, I figured might as well start now. And so I ended up in jewelry, and I think that's been a really interesting journey, because I've only been in jewelry for 4 years now, but I've already been at the top. I don't know if that's weird to say, but I've been at couture, and I've sold at couture, and I've met all the top designers in the world, and I've handled millions of dollars of jewelry. some of the finest materials in the world. And I found that as I was meeting these designers and interacting with these individuals that I theologically disagreed with them. And felt like, and this isn't, I don't say this as a scary thing, right? But I found that there were several interactions that I had where I realized that, some people in particular are in the spirit realm in a way that I would identify as witches and warlocks. And they weave curses into jewelry. And so what I realized I wanted to do, ultimately the ethos of it, was the opposite of that. To weave in and forge in blessing. And so I had to make a big transition in my life to make that possible. We both did. We did together. And I think right now what I'm processing and in the middle of is a question of the theology of making. We have a creator God. And I was kind of curious. I was like, what is the secular view or understanding of creativity? And Elizabeth Gilbert, who is a very well-known author, she was talking about how the understanding of the word genius actually came from a Greek noun that described a little man that lived in your walls. And whether or not he found you working that day, he may or may not bestow upon you genius. And that really helped a lot of artists because, for the fragile artist ego, if they didn't have genius that day, well, that's all right. That was that little man's fault. But if they did, they also couldn't take full credit for it. It was like, oh, it was just the genius. I don't believe in the little man. I believe in the big God. And I think that we have an opportunity to have a direct creative outlet from him. And my hope is that we are forging and creating specifically with metal and gems and jewelry. All of those things are found naturally. And if we truly believe that God is creating in the natural world, I believe nature is healing. I believe nature has vibrations. And when working with that natural substance, my goal is not to create it into something it's not, but to honor what's already there. And I think, when looking at the Bible, I have to pull this up because I don't want to absolutely butcher the names, though I'm going to. Bezalel and Oholiab were the first two craftsmen ever listed in the Bible. Bezalel was known for having the full spirit of God within him, which meant that he was bestowed with God's wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and all kinds of craftsmanship. His specific form of craftsmanship was he was a jeweler. It's the very first form of craftsmanship listed in the Bible. And he made the Ark of the Covenant. So, yeah. And I think that that's really special because when looking at how we're newly married, as was listed, and how we're going to move forward in our lives is we're going to create because we were created. There's this wonderful sculptor out of Romania who my mom did a film on, Liviu Mocan, and he said, I am a sculptor because I am a sculpture. And I've been thinking about that, and I'm like, I am a jeweler because I'm also a jewel in God's eyes. And I'm playing along with that in a little bit. And I think we're just really excited for this next season. And, I have a podcast.
It's actually very good. And she's going to undersell herself. I have been on the sidelines to a degree of your jewelry journey and creative in my own way, as you mentioned during COVID. Just athlete growing up my whole life and felt this void, and being part of your life, your world, sharing together and growing has opened that up. And man, it's fun being around beauty in a way that isn't just surface level, but it goes deep. And then in the creative process as well, just your little snippet, it's deep, it's rich, there's storytelling, it's honoring, and you're learning and figuring that out, and we're figuring that out together in our work, what we do, in our creative outlets, as well as in our marriage, and that's been super fun. But she does a really good podcast. It's been fun to hear her in the best way. It's not, the focus is not on her, it's on these other artists and their creative process, and that's just been really beautiful because you elevate people, and when everyone's elevating each other, it gets out into the world, but also it's just really beautiful, and I think that's how it should be. So a little side encouragement.
Yeah, so those two characters that I mentioned before in the Bible, I'm not going to try to pronounce their names again. They had pagan mentors. Their mentors were pagan. They learned craftsmanship. They got their training in a pagan infrastructure and then used their gifts for the kingdom. And so my podcast is called Passing the Torch, Legacies in Jewelry. And the premise of it is to have on some of the world's finest jewelers. And I have only been at it for a few months, and I seriously think I've had the best jewelers in the world already on. And I book them for 3 hours. I spend an hour and a half filming, and the remaining hour and a half I have of their completely devoted time to ask them questions and have them mentor me directly. Which otherwise, if I wasn't offering them a service, like I'm going to talk about your vocation and how you create in this world, they wouldn't otherwise talk to me. And I think that there's a huge element of creating value. You know, I think very often where we get stuck is that we just expect people to kind of guide us, you know, and I found that especially in jewelry, like when you want to learn something, you have to pay for a class, or you have to pay for someone to offer you their time. It's a huge mentorship heavy, unless you have a parent. That's why the jewelry world is overwhelmingly generational. Unless you have a parent teaching you, it is nearly impossible to break into, because there's so much to learn to just do the basics. And so I have had to find a way to create value for people to then invest in me, to value to offer them. The other thing that I'm pretty good at is I'm pretty good at sales. And so I have gone in, I am. And I have restructured some of these jewelers' sales showrooms and sold for them in exchange for their time and their expertise. And I think that so often we can find ourselves in a rut, in a creative rut, or in a rut where we feel like we need more education than we have access to. And there are ways through that, and it's by generating value. So I'm getting the time. Yeah, there we go. Ha on 10. Awesome. Thank you.
Was that? Thank you guys.
Okay.
I'll just say I haven't listened to her podcast. I'm not a jeweler. It is really good.
Thank you.
It is, and I don't know anything about jewelry. It is very fun. It's fun to listen to her talk.
Where can we find it?
You can find it anywhere. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you find your podcasts. It's called.
And it's going to be in the follow-up email to you guys, so you just click and go.
Oh, and I will say just one last thing. Sorry, Janine, who's a friend of Sarah's. I don't know how many people in this room know Janine. Incredibly wonderful human being. Her and I are working on a series. We're actively doing the research for it, all about what the Bible says about jewelry. So that's going to be a whole summer series coming out. So definitely look for it in that capacity, because that's going to be rolling out soon. So yeah.
Do you need to go, or can you stay for 10?
I can stay for 10. Yeah.
So next up is Mama Sue. For those that don't know, this is my mom-in-law, Brandon's mama. And did you make it up, Mom in Love? Or okay, so she's really my mom in love. How cute is that? And I knew I wanted someone to talk about hospitality today. And anyone that knows Mama Sue knows it's like a mic drop for her to be talking about. She oozes it. It's not just about her home, although it is. It's just how she be with people when you spend 3 seconds with her. You just feel enveloped. And you probably will be enveloped by a hug. And so,
Very nice.
so I have asked Mama Sue to share about hospitality. And we thank you so much for who you are and sharing your voice with us.
Thank you. Do I need this microphone? I do?
I heard someone say yes and someone say no.
Lisa, did you say yes? All right. First of all, I am blessed by this young couple next to me. I don't know them well, but I love it when a husband encourages their wife and that they are walking together in such harmony, and it blesses me so much. And even to hear, for some of you who weren't here, hearing Brandon share about his life and the influence Sarah has been in his life has totally made my day. So anyway, you may be wondering why, first of all, I want to tell you I'm very humbled and very honored to be speaking about hospitality. And I hope you get some nuggets that you can take with you, because I'm going to tell you several stories how hospitality has affected me. You may wonder why I brought this pineapple up, and I'm going to tell you a little history about the pineapple that some of you may not know. But it very first was brought to Europe it was introduced by wealthy travelers that had gone to the New World. And they were greeted in some of the Caribbean communities by the natives hanging out the pineapple. And so the Europeans brought it back as feeling that it was a real welcoming tool to use in their homes. And then later on, I was reading about sea captains, that it was a place where when sea captains were coming back from some of their tropical trips, the families would put the pineapple out on the gatepost or out in front of their home for an invitation for visitors to come and hear the sea captain who had returned and hear about his tropical tales. So we're going to hear, that was a source back then of great hospitality. And so I'm going to share with you today about some stories of my hospitality and how some of them have changed my life and how I serve. You know, I don't know what you think about when you hear the word hospitality. You might think of, oh my gosh, hospitality means you have to have a grandiose house, or you have to be serving a gourmet meal, or you might think of it as just being friends around a table or family around a table that are having polite chit-chat. And it can be that. But I'm going to tell you, hospitality is so much more. And in Scripture, God tells us that we are to practice hospitality, and we are to do it with joy. Hospitality is not about showing off your house, your decorating skills, your cooking skills, or about you and your possessions. Hospitality is about investing in others' lives and learning how can we best serve those that are around us. Sometimes it might be a warm meal. Sometimes it might just be inviting somebody in for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, or maybe just a friendly conversation. Maybe it's when you're walking your neighborhood. Maybe it's just over the back fence, starting up a conversation with somebody you barely know. And there's people here today that many of you don't know each other, but you're able to express some hospitality by getting to know one another. I'm going to tell you a great story about hospitality that really changed my life. And I am really kind of a control person. I hate to say that, but I like being in control. And so I like having my house in order. I like when I have guests over that I love having everything planned, and I like doing it all. I don't like people in the kitchen. I want to do it myself. And so that's kind of what I am. But my husband and I moved to Texas after living here and raising our children here for 20 years. We moved to Texas. We knew no one in Texas. And it was a very sad move for my family. Brandon was in college. My youngest son was a senior in high school, and we were moving him. I was just about ready to have the position that I had been desiring for a long time, being the women's minister in my church. And all of a sudden, my husband has this transfer with his job. So we go to Texas, and Cody and I aren't very happy, and poor Mike, but his whole thing was, well, if we don't like Texas, we can always come back home. And so about the second Sunday we were there, we visited a church that we'd heard about, and they had what they call a bread lady. And the bread lady would know who the guests were as you walked into the church, and they would have you stand up in the middle of the congregation so that the congregation members could see who was new, which was lovely because then you were greeted. And again, we knew no one, and it was kind of difficult to be standing up with all these people looking at you. And so after the service, we started leaving the church, and all of a sudden this woman ran out of the choir loft and came down, and it was a woman we had known here in Denver for 10 years. And we didn't know she went to that church. We'd kind of lost contact. She was so thrilled to see us, and she said, "Oh, you have to come home right now for lunch with us." She said, "I have nothing." She said, "My house is a mess." And she said, I have nothing planned, but I want you to meet some friends. So we went to their home. We had Oreo cookies. She had peanut butter and bread. And she had a few leftover things that they'd had. And there were 4 couples of us. And did any of us care what food we were eating? We cared that we were meeting people, and we were lonesome. I was especially lonesome. And I always use her as such an example of what hospitality was. And her house was kind of a mess. And we stopped at McDonald's on the way home and got a burger. But we had a great time, and those people became some of our very best friends in Texas. So that's one of my stories, and I don't know how much time I have, but it's a lot more of, it's a lot more than entertaining. It's an attitude of love that we extend to those that we invite into our home. This is something I want you to remember. People want your attention instead of your perfection. And I heard this recently through a woman that was speaking. I don't know if she was on the news or what I heard about her, but she said, how a person feels the first 7 seconds, and that isn't 7 minutes, it's 7 seconds when they enter a door, will tell them if they feel welcome. And I just have to end very quickly. I lead a widows group at my church. I have 67 widows in this group. And one of the ladies came to my home. We have what we call a game afternoon where we just get together, have lunch, and play cards or games. And this woman walked in, and she had never been there and was all by herself. And when she left, she said, "Sue, I never thought I would laugh again. And that just brought me such joy to know that you never know. You might be entertaining angels. God has said that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, all.
Love you, honey. Love you, love you.
Okay, like I said, get up, stretch your legs if you need to. Go sit in the sun with Sister Jean over there. I'm gonna have Aaron and Kat and Lisa come up next. And as they make their way up here, I want to read. I have a little quote in between each of our storytellers. And Godet is a dear sister, long time sister, love of ours here in the Seeds Sisterhood. And she wasn't able to be here, but she said this, and I just loved it, about connection and community. And she said, "My community, my trusted tribe, helps me to see life, to see myself differently." That's why we be here, and that's why we share these stories, because it just shifts how we see the world and ourselves. And so just take a breath in between these, roll your shoulders out, I don't know. We might do some dancing spots in mine, whatever. But these three, oh my gosh. For those of you that don't know, from your left to right, this is Kat and Aaron and Lisa. So, a little story by way of introduction for them.
I don't want to miss this.
I know. I told you to leave them wanting more.
The Facebook Live on your phone.
Facebook Live on your phone.
You listen in.
So, in a minute, we're going to hear from Ryann. Can you raise your hand, sister?
Oh.
So, the three of us, this is just we're talking about ripples. It just will blow your mind open and your heart open with so much wow. This is just a little bit. The three of us were driving a couple weeks ago to Castle Rock to meet Naja's mama and her aunt, because we try to have dinner, the six of us, once a month. And we meet halfway because they're in the Springs and we're up in Denver. So we were driving down to meet Raquel and Rochelle, Naja's mom and aunt, at La Loma. And on our way there, we were talking about this moment, the three of us. We're like, each of them were like, I don't know what I'm going to say. And I mean, they had awesome ideas, but once we started talking to each other about, ooh, have you thought about this? Or, ooh, what about that? All of us at the same time were like, oh my gosh, I want to hear more than 10 minutes about that. And it was so fun. So that was kind of the seeds for that. But then the part I want to say is, when we got to La Loma, Ryann was our server. And literally, we kept pulling her away from the other tables because we just fell in love with her. And we were like, and she, little by little, speaking of stories, she started telling us her story. And we were all crying and like exchanging Instagram and phone numbers at the end. And we were like, we have to stay connected. We have to stay connected. And hello, when you hear her story and just what is possible when we just love and see and connect, and she was so open-hearted with us. She shared hard stuff that's going on in her life and beautiful stuff, awesome stuff that's going on in her life. as she's going between, like she's at work, she just shared her beautiful heart with us, and now here we are all together, and you'll be able to hear from her. But on our way to meet Ryann, we didn't know, we planted the seeds for this. So, I'm going to pass it to you first, but I'm going to mic you up.
Oh.
This is for okay. And then, so I'm not too interruptive. I'm going to do this.
I do have a really loud voice, though.
Do you want to try it?
Yeah, I'll go without it. I'll try it.
What do you say, do it?
Yeah.
Do it.
I think it's important.
Okay.
I think they're important.
I'm gonna listen to. Oh, thank you, Lise. Well, it's kind of funny because I am piggybacking a little bit on Mama Sue because my topic is similar. And as she was talking, I was like, oh no, I got to think of all these new things to say. But I'm not. I'm not going to think of new things to say. I'm just going to say what I have planned, and I'm going to trust the process that maybe you're in this room because you need to hear it twice. I don't know. Or maybe it'll be a little different. Or maybe, what? Yeah, sure. Can I have your notes? No. I have a quote that I want to start with, and we'll just light up that pineapple. Oh, that's so cute. I love that.
Aww.
And this quote, and I am acknowledging that not everybody here has a Christian faith, but I think just tapping into a spirituality that you might have, or what you call it. But I love this quote. I read it the other day, and this actually was what helped me decide what I wanted to talk about. It says, however perplexed you may at any hour become about some question of truth, one refuge and resource is always at hand. You can do something for someone besides yourself. When your own burden is heaviest, you can always lighten a little some other burden. At the times when you cannot see God, there is still open to you the sacred possibility to show God, for it is the love and kindness of human hearts through which the divine reality comes home to men and women, whether they name it or not. Let this thought then stay with you. There may be times when you cannot find help, but there is no time when you cannot give help. So my connection with Mama Sue's is that I was going to talk about building community through, food. And I wanted to give you a little background that I love food. I love to eat. I love cooking. I love people to eat my cooking. I don't love to eat people or eat food, but I love to cook for and eat with people. And my whole life has kind of been like that. I grew up in church. I grew up in a family with 5 children. And my mom cooked for us. She cooked us breakfast. We had lunch that we took, and we had dinner that we sat down and ate together, and we were expected to eat. We didn't have 5 different meals. Everybody ate exactly what was there, or you were hungry. But that was my first experience of food, and my mom entertained. I grew up in West Virginia, so I grew up in a very communal type of environment and neighborhood where you shared food together. Somebody was born, you take food. Somebody dies, you take food. Somebody's sick, you take food. Somebody breaks their leg, you take food. Somebody's sad, you take food. So it was always that environment. There was no question about it. I think that also my mom was from California. My dad was from West Virginia, but my mom had traveled as a military child, and so her palate was very diverse. She would make all kinds of really interesting food and new recipes. She's still a good cook. She's 82 years old. She still cooks. She's still a good cook. And our friends, if they ever came home with us after school, like before practice or something, they would always say, like, well, what is your mom making? Because they were always a little concerned that they knew there was no mac and cheese on the side in case you didn't like what we were having. Like, you had what you were having. And also my grandparents, my West Virginia grandparents, my grandma always cooked, and one thing that I always remember from her is that when she would go to church on Sunday, she always made extra food and had an extra plate at the table, just in case she ran into somebody that she thought might need to come home with her. So that's kind of how I grew up. In my 20s, I moved to West Africa, and I lived there for 4 years. And again, it was community with food. My neighbors would bring me food. I would take them food sometimes. It didn't matter how little we had or what was available. We just made the best of it, and we shared it together. In that community where I lived, there was a big Lebanese community. who I became friends with because there were a lot of the younger members of the family were more my age and single, and so we had a lot in common. And I learned super quickly, go to their house when it's mealtime because they will never turn you away. The food is amazing, and there's always a ton of it. So again, I shared so many meals there, and here I was Christian. They were Muslim. We didn't share the same faith. We didn't share the same background. But, man, we had some good times around that table. When I came home, I entered into refugee work and refugee resettlement here in Colorado. We used to hold community dinners. It would be a potluck. People would come, people from the community, people that were new in the community. And at the end of the night, we would get in a circle, and we would have what was called wants, needs, and offerings. So basically, if somebody had a need, they could put it out to the circle. If you had a want, you could put it out to the circle. If you had something to offer, like, hey, I got a new, washing machine, but here I have an old one that still works if somebody need it. Or I'm free in the afternoons. I could give somebody a ride to a doctor's appointment, or I could do childcare. So, and it was everybody in the circle being able to ask or to offer what they needed or wanted. And that, again, was a way of connecting and building community over food and bringing it together. I mean, nobody just wants to come to a meeting and be like, hey, do you need something? Do you want something? No, you have to have the draw, which is food, and coming together around food. We also started an event when I was there called Refugees First Thanksgiving, which is still actually going on through the African Community Center, which is the organization that I worked for. And again, it was a way of bringing people together. It was connected to hospitality, but again, connecting over food. Sometimes trying different food that people wouldn't have tried before, or talking about it, or facilitating, conversation. I just recently listened to a podcast, and it's called The Food Program, and it's on BBC. I've listened to it for years and years, and it's so interesting. And they did a whole program on communal eating, and they did some in the UK, but also in Denmark, and talked about, there's one man that started this organization and hosts it, and I think it's like 4 or 5 nights a week. They pay about, I didn't do the dollar translation, but it was like £6. Wasn't very much money. 60 kroner, is it kroner? So not very much money, good healthy food that was accessible to everybody, so there could be a vegetarian option, and people just come together, and you sit at a table, you talk to strangers. They even commented that they thought about putting up signs to where the bathroom was, but then his wife said, no, don't do that, because people will ask each other, hey, do you know where the bathroom is? And then they'll tell them, and then they're talking to each other. So again, it was a way of bringing people together over food and forming community, because all of us eat. All of us eat. We may eat very differently. We may have different allergies. We may have different preferences, but we all eat. So it's a way to come together. And it's something that we can really offer each other. I've been in a lot of different seasons over the last 10 years where I haven't always been in a season to be able to offer like financial help maybe, or even time help. But I found that with my neighbors, my world got really small, during COVID, but with my neighbors, that I could always offer food. My husband sometimes gets so annoyed because he'd be like, oh, where are those brownies I smelled baking? I'm like, oh, already off to the neighbors, or they're already gone. And, I've learned now I always cut a little corner. I cut a little corner and save them for him. Because people want to come together. And if you're giving food as a help or like as a hospitality, that's a way of coming together. But it's also if you can come, to a long table and be together like we were today. I mean, can you imagine this meeting without food? Or if we all just brought our own food and we're all like sitting there eating our takeout or our packed lunches or not sharing, it would feel, a lot different. And Sarah does such a good job on that, of providing food. So I'm going to say 10 little lists of if you're doing this, or if you want to be helping build community with food, is, and some of it's also what Mama Sue said. It can be really simple. It can be peasant food. My favorite thing to take to people is soup and bread. It can be leftovers. It doesn't have to be fancy or gourmet. It doesn't have to be worthy to be posted on social media. A lot of homey food is ugly. You get a super pack of like to-go. My brother gave me a big box of to-go, whatever you call them, containers, because he knew that I love to give away food, and and you don't have to worry about getting it back. Don't make a general offer. If you know somebody needs something, just say, hey, I want to bring you dinner on Tuesday. Or, hey, I'm bringing you dinner on Tuesday unless you tell me not to. Don't say, if you need anything, let me know. Or if I can bring you dinner sometime, let me know. Say, I am bringing it unless you say no. You can still give them, the right of refusal. If you can add a card, or cut a little, like one little flower from your yard, a little tiny snippet of something that's fun to just stick that on top to make it pretty, but you don't have to. Don't let perfection paralyze you. It doesn't always have to be homemade. Send some pho to somebody who has the flu. Keep your ear to the ground. Like you were saying, just walking around the neighborhood, I walk my dogs. So my neighbor said, I think you're the mayor of the neighborhood. I was like, no, I'm just nosy. I like to know what's going on. I like to see what's happening. And, whatever you like to cook and eat, that's what you can share. Yeah. And I just think, just do it. See you tomorrow.
Hello, I'm Lisa Sharp, and I'm more of a writer than a speaker, so I'm going to read and share with you this way. And I'm going to share with you about my creative journey through work. In my 20s, I felt like I had a trapped artist inside of me, like a creative person with nothing to show for it. I have always been very attracted to creative people and events like this. And I began to feel jealous of these people. Everyone seemed to have their thing. What was my thing? I had friends who were musicians, so I did some photography and set design for them. I dabbled in this and that, voice lessons, journal writing, painting class. Nothing came of that. Nothing caught fire. I didn't discover some secret hidden talent as I had hoped. Can anybody relate to that? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. In my 30s, I was working as a hospital palliative care social worker. That's where I met Krista. And I encountered a patient who had worked for Gates Rubber Company. Anybody remember that? Yeah. Around town? Are you? He had retired, and he had gone on some archaeology trips. He had learned to throw pottery, and he was laying in the bed at the end of his life, and he was happy as he reflected on all that he had done. That really planted a seed in me. I still remember that moment. I began to enjoy the creativity in working on a palliative care team. I was with a doctor, a nurse, a chaplain, me as the social worker, and the four of us would go in and sit and talk with the patient and their family about what was happening medically, what their options are for care, what they wanted to do. And I started taking opportunities to work with people with serious illness differently than my teammates, using language and phrases that were uniquely suited to each individual, weaving in examples and illustrations that would resonate with a particular person, watching the body language and facial expressions of family members, and paying attention not only to what was said, but also what was not said. Sometimes it felt like going out on a high dive, pausing, and then taking the leap as I took the conversation in a different direction. Eventually, I burned out after many years of social work. I pondered, what else could I do for work? I thought about how some friends had asked me to help them edit their closet. People I worked with said they wished they could go shopping with me. I had one friend that used to pay me to pack her for her trips around the world doing disaster preparedness work for her nursing doctorate. could I do something like that for work? It felt really risky. I remembered what that patient had told me in the hospital several years ago and how fulfilled he was at the end of his life because of all the things he had tried. I decided it felt better to take the risk instead of never trying. What's the worst that could happen? Failure. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. I knew I would regret it more if I didn't try it. I'd rather try it and fail than not try it. Better to have more oh wells in life than what ifs. And that's how Stylish Sparrow was born. Stylish Sparrow was my wardrobe consulting business. I did it. I worked in all kinds of closets. Raise your hand if I've been in your closet.
What if we've been in your basement?
Yeah. We've been in my basement.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll tell you about my basement in a minute. But I worked in all kinds of closets. The president of an oil company, mothers who felt frumpy, a friend from Ethiopia, and obviously some women in this room. And as I developed and created this business, I consulted and worked with Estrid, who helped me birth this business. And you'll hear from her in a little bit. And she helped me discover my core values that informed my business. Number one, beauty is intrinsic. It's not something to be attained. It is inherent in every person and situation. You have everything you need inside of your closet and yourself. Start there. We forget how to see the beauty in ourselves. Number two, global citizenship. Social responsibility and fashion are inextricably linked. Seeing ourselves as global citizens changes the choices we make in our everyday lives. Our purchases impact people in a meaningful way. Thanks to fast fashion, we see our clothes as disposable. We have a closet full of clothes, but nothing to wear. So what do? We buy more. How can I make my closet more ethical? The intersection of social justice and fashion is fascinating. Number three, human connection yields discovery. We need each other to see ourselves. We've heard that theme today already. We need each other to begin to own our personal style and to see new possibilities for ourselves. Back to the name Stylish Sparrow. You will rarely see a sparrow alone. We need each other. And deep human connection is your number one asset. Number four, freedom. We become liberated as we overcome challenges. It is possible to find freedom in your very own closet through very careful editing and organization. This leads to increased contentment and less consumption. And this brings freedom to other people around the world. Isn't that amazing that you can set other people free from inside your own closet? Number 5, everyday real. A sparrow's feathers serve as both camouflage to hide and demarcation to stand out and be identified. Our clothing serves different purposes at various stages in our lives. How many of you can relate to wanting to hide in your clothes or stand out in your clothes? Right? Personal style is accessible and affordable at every stage in life. So as my values shaped my work, I witnessed people falling in love with what they already owned in their closet and watched their facial expression change when they looked in the mirror. I opened a resale clothing shop in my basement and hosted some shopping events. Everything was sourced from thrift shops, my clients' closets, estate sales, and a few newly made fair trade items. To this day, people still tell me that some of the things they bought from the shop are still their favorite pieces to wear. This past year, a couple of people told me they still implement what they learned from me, or that I changed their life in a positive way. But despite all of the positive feedback I was having, I felt a little hollow inside, unfulfilled. Beauty has always nurtured me, but something was missing, and I couldn't escape this feeling. And to be totally transparent, I was a failure on the business side of things, and it was hard to find people that wanted to pay for what I offered. A crystallizing moment transpired when a woman I had coveted to work with for several years finally asked me to work with her. She's an influencer, has quite a following, and I really liked her a lot. She would be so much fun to work with. I told her no. I realized that my heart simply was not in it anymore. And how could that happen at this moment? That my dream client wanted to work with me, and I just had to say no. That was it. And it was taking a toll on my family because I was spending all of my energy on trying to make this whole thing work. I had very little to give my daughter and my husband, and I was tired. After 7 years, which is a number of completion, I closed the doors of Stylish Sparrow, and it felt really good. I mean, it was sad, but it felt really good. So what the heck was I going to do now? Retail. It has been a touchstone in my life since age 16, and it's something that I've moved towards and gone back to. It's met a need in my life, and those gaps in our careers where we need something to do. It served that purpose for me. I could go into detail about that, but I won't. I am going to fast forward to age 52. I was a washed-up social worker and a failed business owner looking for a job. I didn't think anyone else saw me that way, but it's how I saw myself. I was shopping for one of my last clients, and I walked into a store at the mall. And there was Jackie, and she was a manager at the retail store where I worked when I first moved here to Denver on Larimer Square in 1996. And I had been praying. I was specifically praying for ease in my work, and I wanted flow without the hustle. And she gave that to me. I had to get over myself because I thought, how can I be 52 years old and go work at the mall? But I did it. And it gave me exactly what I needed, my confidence and my mojo back. As I felt ready to make another change, I realized that at my core, I am a social worker. To me, people are what is most important in life, and helping people brings me fulfillment. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm back in social work. I work with older adults, and here are my take-home points. This is what I learned about creativity. It's a spectrum rather than black and white. It's not a club that you're in or you're out. Beauty is visible and invisible. I mean, look at all this beauty we can see here in this community of houses. All the visible beauty, and think about all the beauty and healing going on inside of these homes. I prefer to co-create with others rather than go into a studio alone. I need other people in order to be creative. I discover and experience my creativity in relationship with other people. Justice is beautiful. Watching a captive set free will make you weep. Witnessing broken situations and systems be restored so that people can flourish is beautiful. Healing and wholeness are beautiful. People who survive war and suffering and trauma and go on with their lives because of resilience, hope, and faith are beautiful. Beauty cannot always be seen by the eye, but rather felt in the heart. Creativity helps people survive and thrive. If you think for 1 second that you are not creative, gather people around you who know you well and see you for who you really are. Your creativity is right under your nose. Maybe you're wearing your creativity. Maybe it is evidenced in your cooking, your home, or how you gather groups of people. Maybe it has to do with how you think and solve problems. I believe every human is an image bearer of God. And if you look around, God is endlessly creative, and so are you.
Wow. I told you guys it was good. Amazing. If anyone's wondering, these are these little mics for our Facebook Live. So, what's that? No, you can stay. Okay, so I'm just going to flank you guys, if I may. So, Kat. Hello, Sarah. We're doing this a little conversational style here. And when I was thinking about who to invite to share stories around living a life of beauty and creativity and connection, I wanted to have this sister Kat be a part of the conversation for so many reasons. And as we four were talking about it, there were like 10 different trajectories we could take with Kat's beautiful story. But where Kat landed was so wise. And I love it because I know in a room this big, there are people who are going through some hard things. And we are not here to just talk about beauty in terms of something that looks good or feels good or like rainbows and fairy tales. We're talking about everyday life. And Kat has had some real hard in her life. And she decided to take the mic and share that. Like pull the veil of her heart back and talk about how community and her faith has saved her life. So I'd love for you to share what you chose to share about what the hardest thing that has ever happened to you and how you've made your way through to be sitting with us today.
So thank you. I know there may be some of you who are struggling with depression, and sometimes it can seem like it's going to completely take you out. And there's no shame in that. That's a very, very human experience. And it took my husband out. He took his life about 2.5 years ago. I was left questioning how to move forward. And I think Anne Frank said it best when she said, among all the misery, remember the beauty that remains. And that became a cornerstone of walking forward. These beautiful women kept me sometimes shopping, often shopping, actually. Now that I think about it, we spend a lot of time doing that, often coffeeing, because I would like to do it all by myself. And they kept drawing me out. And I started a philosophy of saying yes. And I said yes to some pretty wild stuff. Let's see. Some things I said yes to. Naja's wedding in Brazil. I said yes to that. That was a good thing. But I think the more I could say yes to, my world had become, obliterated, actually. It was sort of wiped off. And so I was starting over, and it was pretty small. And so one of the ways to make it bigger was to say yes. And then sometimes I said, and never again, Brazil was not one of those, but so.
So what would you say to anyone who can relate to what you shared about yourself, your inclination? Your joke in our sister circle is always like, if you haven't heard from me for a while, it probably means I'm not doing so good. So and by the way, Kat said like free invitation to share and to ask anything.
Yes.
So for you and anyone else who can relate with this whole kind of tendency to pull back and want to hide when things are hard, and how your community, like you kind of gave permission to us to come find you under your rock.
Yeah.
But would you talk a little bit about kind of what you've learned and around that hiding piece and inviting people to come in and be with you or to pull you out?
So it's never as scary as I tell myself it is. The world is not as horrible as I make it out to be in my mind. They're not going to eat me when I walk out the front door. And I think I'm afraid of a lot of humiliation and judgment, and I'm so blessed to have people, really good people in my life, my sisters who don't judge me and encourage me to be my full self. And I think that part of the beauty about what we're doing today is talk about how to be our full selves and how to create safety for other people to be them full selves. I don't know if that was grammatically correct.
What would you say, Kat, to any of us who are walking with someone we love who's going through a really, really, really hard time? And what you found helpful in the companionship of your people when you were going through a really, really, really hard time, like do's and don'ts, maybe.
Do's and don'ts.
Do you know what I mean?
Patience is going to be your best friend. The longer you can hang out with somebody doing nothing, they'll eventually start talking about something. And just sometimes it takes us a little bit longer to say what's on our heart. And sometimes that just, going for a walk or going to the mall or these simple things that don't feel like, we're going to sit down and have a conversation. I think that's really scary. But to walk alongside of somebody, to do a common task with them, to have a bit of food with them, and to talk about nothing, I think it creates an element of safety that, and I work with Safe Places for Women, and I try to utilize that. I don't want to come in and say, so tell me about your trafficking experience. I want to be like, hey, do you need breakfast? And what do you think about going and buying some apples? Or just to tone down the intensity a little bit, because life can feel like a lot.
So we have time for one more. Okay. What would you say gave you the most hope when you thought all hope was lost?
Anne Frank. She was dealing with the annihilation of everything that she knew to be dear. And yet she found a way to not live her life in a monotone existence. Like, yes, she cried, but yes, she laughed. And she went to school, and she, got up and had breakfast, and those are all of those things that we need to do in grief. Is that, I hate the term, well, life still goes on. Well, yeah, it does. Not if you're under 3 feet of covers, it doesn't. But you do still need to have breakfast. Everybody's got to eat, and you still need to, you still have to find a way to be human, because there's something about grief that wants to steal our humanity. And so there's something about holding on to it that is really pretty sacred.
Wow, that's like without notes, and you just beautiful.
Thank you.
That's a mic drop right there. Thank you.
I
We
won't
love
drop.
you. We love you. Oh, don't worry. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, Polly and Donna. Oh, yeah. You're amazing. I don't know. It's tricky. And I don't want to break.
Thank you, honey.
Thanks.
Yeah. Can I cry and sit?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you're going to sit in the middle.
You can cry. Okay, I'm going to take one of these stools away. And then do you want this for your
Just
notes?
gonna-
Yep.
You know what? I'm probably not going to use it. I'm just holding it because this is Amanda with me today. Okay? So she's with me.
You take the middle.
No, you do? Okay. You want me next to Polly? Yeah, I won't fight.
Okay, so you guys, these two is where this day started.
Meow.
Right here. In so many ways, but I can't, I'm doing an intro and then they have 10 minutes. So I'm just going to say, when the idea of Cultivate came to me, it was around knowing that so many of y'all have been companioning me in about a decade of writing books and publishing books. And literally, so many people here, they have been a part of the pages of these books. So you know what this journey has been. These two, earlier I said to Polly, I couldn't have done it without you. But actually, that is not true. I believe God would have given me another Polly, but God gave me Polly, which you'll hear her story in a minute, and Donna, to help me be able to do what God gave me to do. Wow. Okay? So, and I also wanted to plant the seeds. So this is a buckle up. I wanted to plant the seeds because I know some of you know you have a book in you. Or you have a way to write your story that maybe it's not going to be in a published book, but it's on a blog, or it's on social media, or you're going to use it to speak, or you're going to use it to build community with neighbors, whatever. There's ways that writing can or it's part of your healing. Mm-hmm. So I'm wanting to plant seeds of whatever might be stirring in our collective around writing. Stories, putting your heart like writing your heart out in letters and sharing it for the world to see, or whatever you decide is the world that is supposed to see your story. So the reason I say buckle up is because I know some people are like, oh, I don't want to do it, but I want to do it. I don't want to do it, but I want to do it. So these two are here to be a part of that wrestling, because they've been a part of my wrestling. They have seen me through some things. So what we're going to do is just share. I'm going to ask a couple questions, living room style, of these two. And truly, these two we could be here till midnight and you would not be bored hearing their stories. So there will be more with the two of them. So what I want to start with is you, Donna. I want you to share with us about the many beautiful hats you wear. I'll name a few, and if I leave any out, please jump in. As a writing coach, as an editor, as one who started her own independent publishing company called Mary Dissonance Press.
Therapist.
I'd like for you to
Therapist.
Therapist. See, I knew I was going to leave stuff out. That's what happens when you're a kaleidoscopic human being like you. So will you just talk about how you came to do this work and how these roles weave together in your work?
In 30 seconds or less, right?
Yeah, right.
First, I can't believe all the connections. I have a poem that I wrote that's going to be in my next book called Kaleidoscope, and if I had known, I would have brought it to read, but it's not with me. So I was like, okay, connections. Lisa, connections. Social work, that was the dream. I wanted to be a social worker when I was in high school. And at the time in the early 70s, it was flooding. The market of social work was starting to flood, and I was dissuaded from that and told that I needed to find another kind of work, that it was just overpopulated already. Fast forward to where I am today, and as Polly just said, I feel like I am doing the work that I was meant to do and wanted to do from the time I was 16 years old, and that is to be, especially with women, I seem to work with women more than men, but to be with women in their stories and to help you tell your stories. And how did I get here? Divine. I had cancer, my first experience with cancer in 2007. I started a business for 3 years that I thought was going to be my work, that was going to help women, men figure out how to take care of themselves, body, mind, and spirit, to make sure that they could avoid having cancer in their life. That was really steeped in fear, I came to understand years later. In the process, though, of that, I wrote my first story about my experience with breast cancer, and I was part of an anthology. And from there, the women who did that did a second book, and I told my story in that book about the 2-year-old, my eldest daughter, who was 2 when I adopted her, and how she came into my life. When we were working on the second book, out of my mouth came, if there are any women who need help with their stories, because this was a women's book, I'd love to help them. I have no idea where that came from. I ended up working with some of the women, and as a result of that, one of the, Andrea, who was one of the authors of the book, asked me when they started their own self-publishing company if I would be their editor. I don't have a degree in English. Anyway, but I said, sure. I answered the call. I'll do it. I'll try it. Let's see what happens. And from there, in 2010, my editing started. That also has morphed into doing coaching, because a lot of times people come with their story and it's skeletal, or it's more of an idea than, or an outline, or just a seed of an idea. And so coaching began. And I learned that because what I've been through, and I've now had 2 experiences with cancer, I also, I'm going to say it, today's the anniversary of the death of my eldest daughter, who died by suicide 6 years ago. And all of these experiences have broken open my heart even more, that I can sit with you in wherever you are and I can be with you. I don't bring mine in, but I can be with you in your story, in the pain that maybe you've been through, and in the light that you've come to be able to see, and help you craft that into the arc of your story that you're going to tell. I went into publishing as well because at the time in 2013, the only option was CreateSpace with gloss covers and white paper. And I found out that I could start a publishing company and go through a different print-on-demand company and be able to offer matte covers and cream color paper. And I decided to create a different model, which was the author gets 100% of their royalties. They pay for the services, but I don't collect any of it. And it's a micro-publisher. It's a little teeny thing, but I still do it. I support more self-publishing authors than I work with authors who I publish with. And I just know that my life journey led me to, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Besides raising my daughters, this is the most important work that I think I've been called to do in this lifetime. Does that got it?
So today we remember and we celebrate Amanda.
Yeah. So I brought this because this book I started writing in 2022. It's going to be the story of being a mother to her, and I don't know where else it's going to go, but addiction is going to be part of it. And these are all the writings that I've been working on. Most of it is in here, and so I'm carrying it with me today. But 6 years now, I thought I'd have the book out by year 5, and so, you know, a story takes the time that it takes, as Sarah and I have experienced together. And so whenever the time is right, it'll come into the world. So, but I decided to carry her with me today. So,
So good. It's our honor.
thank you.
And I neglected to say their names. This is Donna and Polly. Okay. So Polly, I would love for you to share with us about your first book and the story associated with that, and the pain that you went through in that publishing process that led you out of that pain, how it led you to do what you're doing now so that others don't have to go through the pain you went through.
Yeah, I've been through it, so you're welcome. So I'll go back to the age of 12. I had this dream in my head since I was 12, growing up in Minneapolis, to go walk around the world. This is how I wanted to go see the world. So eventually, fast forward, I was 37 when I left. I left my home, which at the time was Vail, Colorado, headed west across 4 continents, 14,124 miles, but who's counting? Across 22 countries and 4 continents. So that took 5 years. And I finished. It took me 5 years to walk around the world, 6 years to write the book about it. And I don't want to pretend that big publishing companies, the big traditional houses, were throwing themselves at me. They were not. But I was talking to 2 of them, and they both said, well, there's no romance in here. We need some romance. I'm like, what do you want me to just make it up? There wasn't any. And they both hinted at the fact that, well, you know, you can take some creative license. And, you know, now when I look back at that era, that's when Elizabeth Gilbert's Eat, Pray, Love had just come out. So I think they were trying to replicate that. You know, when there's a hit in a television movie, whatever, they try to replicate that. So I'm like, no, I'm not Elizabeth Gilbert. You know, I didn't go out to find myself or whatever. So when I sat down to really write the book, I made myself a promise, and that was that I was going to tell an honest story. Even when it made me look bad, even when I was grumpy and made bad decisions and overreacted and was rude or whatever, I needed to tell an honest story. You can't tell a story about walking around the world in all different weather and cultures and languages and pretend that everything went swimmingly all the time. You know, you gotta tell an honest story. So then when they're starting to tell me, oh, just make it up, make up a romance. Oh, okay. I thought, oh, geez, I don't want to go this route, because the traditional route of publishing, they have the final say, okay? You don't. So that made me all twitchy. So I thought, well, what are my options? Self-publishing was just starting, and it was rotten. Like Donna said, it's like, yo, you get white paper and glossy cover. Ugh, they were just nasty. So I went with this option called hybrid publishing, partner publishing. Oh, that sounded swell. We'll sit at coffee shops and talk about the direction in which the characters will go. It'll be swell. And I thought this was a fantastic idea. I didn't know what I didn't know, and learned a lot of painful, expensive, dangerous mistakes. But I signed at the dotted line. And anyway, long story short, I had to, she broke every clause in the contract, first of all, and I needed to get out of that. But one thing I learned is that a publishing contract is a one-way street. It's like a marriage. You say, I do, and there's no exit date, you know, right? There's no, take me for 7 months. Sure. So you can't get out of it unless, like a divorce, there's a lot of money and screaming and crying and time. So I had to get an attorney involved, and eventually the attorney says to me, well, this is after like a year, here's the deal. You need to either make up with her, or you need to just run for your life. And I said, okay, I'll run for my life. What's she going to get from me? I don't have anything. I have 3 cats. I double dare you to come after me. So I chose that route. And I swear to God, this is a true story. I'm sitting at the Panera. I know it sounds all cliche, and I guess it was, but I'm sitting at just all rah, rah, rah. And there should be a route for writers to go that are protected, and you know, and so I started back of the napkin at the restaurant. I'm like, could you lend me a pen? Thank you. And I'm writing down everything that people hate about publishing companies, and I'll do the opposite, right? They don't like contracts. Okay, well, then we won't do contracts. We have an agreement to be thorough, but there's no contract in that. You sign up with us, and then HarperCollins offers you a deal. You know, you don't, oh, shoot, I just signed with Polly. No, you go with them, and we take all the credit. So there you go. That's how it works. So I wrote all this on the back of a napkin at the Panera, and then I just kind of went for it. And let me tell you, the very next day, someone called me. And they said, because I had now gone and self-published my book under my own publishing company. So I learned all the painful lessons and knew how to do it. Then I did my mom's. So I knew how to do this now. I wasn't a pro or anything yet. So this woman calls me, friend of a friend, says, I understand you know how to self-publish. Could you help me do that? And I said, yeah, meet me at the Panera. I got a proposal for you. And so I tell her this whole story. I've been doing this and that, and these are the lessons I've learned. I want to start my own publishing company. But would you be my first beta test girl? She says, yeah, sure. So that girl was Barbara Oliverio. She went on to do 7 books. Her first book won a national award and went on to become a movie at the Hallmark Channel. So we were off to a roaring start. And that was over 12 years ago now. We're up to over 1,000 books now. And we were just recently, about 1.5 years ago, submitted into the U.S. Congressional Record for being a new model of publishing that helps protect authors. So, that's how you bridge a walk around the world to owning a publishing company. And Donna and I, you know, we work together a lot. I consider her our A-list editor. And so we have like 44 editors. Donna's the top of the list. If you can swing her, if you can afford her, right? But seriously, people have to be ready to commit and go deep, right? Yeah. You don't work with just anybody, everybody. I'm very protective of who I send to Donna. But yeah, we both have a publishing company, but we work together very well, and we laugh all the time about, oh, geez, this is women doing business, you know. No, you should charge me more. Really, you should charge me more. Isn't that right, though?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're so silly. Anyway.
So what I want to make sure y'all understand, so Polly, she has a company called My Word Publishing. And so what she does is you come to her at any point in your writing process. And she just is your guide. She just walks you through. If you're in one place, she suggests you do this. If you're in another, she says, do this and then come back. And she has vetted people that are editors and cover designers and all the crazy parts that you won't know until you get your first book out there that go into getting your first book out there. But she helps make it easier and does the vetting for you so that you can focus on what your story is, right? And then she also helps with like getting the book up on Amazon or whatever. If you aren't into Amazon, I know that's controversial right now. So whatever your thing is, she'll have to make it happen. Okay. So I want to just quickly, Donna, just for a moment, because I just feel like it's important. We're talking about big things, dreams, desires, living creatively, but it's in the middle of everyday life. And so I just want to ask you to speak for a moment about your trip up the stairs, shall we say, that has impacted just in how you've navigated a very, very serious injury and how you're navigating it with hope and love and trust and surrender and all the things that you do, Donna, as you go through the beautiful and the hard.
Thanks, Sarah. When she told me in an email message last night, I'd love for you to talk about like this recent event, and I started crying when I saw it. So I'm the crier and Polly's the jokester, and so we're a really good balance for each other. So we keep each other really balanced. We do. In November, so 5 months ago yesterday, I had received a very disturbing, it was an upsetting email from someone, and my mind was on it. I was carrying my phone, going up the stairs to the second story to go into the bedroom to take a shower. I was going to reread the email when I got up there because I knew I didn't absorb it all, so I was going to wait and reread it. And I was already thinking, how am I going to respond? And as I'm wearing a ankle-length bathrobe, and as I go to step onto the landing, I apparently tripped over my bathrobe, which I've never, ever done. I don't know if it uncinched. I don't know if I let go of it. I can't tell you what happened. I did not. It happened so fast that I didn't try to do anything to brace my fall. I didn't use my arms or my hands at all, and I landed on my side and fractured my pelvis. And so I had surgery on the 25th of November, so the 22nd is when it happened, and then I had surgery on the 25th. So it's been a journey of going from, in a hospital bed for a few days without being able to get up, to walking with a walker, to now I'm on a cane and now I can actually walk without the cane at times. I'm doing that. I'm even practicing going up and down the stairs without the cane, but just having it there for support. And hopefully within a month I'll be back walking completely independent. I would say author Suleika Jawad, who I admire her. She's has written a memoir, and she talks about life interrupted. And I feel like this is one of those life interruptions that, even my experiences with cancer were life interruptions. It's, these things happen to us, and it's then what do we do with it, and we have the opportunity. And it doesn't mean I didn't ask why me, why now, what the heck, but it's like we don't have to get stuck there and live there. And I just feel like my life has been over and over teaching me that, it's how do you keep going day by day, one day at a time, being present to the day, to whatever is in your day and around you, who's in your life, and what you need to do for yourself. And so, I guess when somebody looks at it from the outside, it looks like I've been handling this with grace, and I would say for the most part I have. There have been times, I can't say that I haven't had my moments, but it's like there's this accepting what happens and then going forward and moving forward in life. And I'm grateful that my body is repairing and it is healing, and I will be fully restored, and I think that's partly my attitude. So I will say one last thing, and that is my age. The doctors at first were not before meeting with me, were not in favor of me having surgery. And then when I met with the surgeon, because it's a rare surgery and there were only 2 surgeons that could do it, and so when I met with him, he said, from talking to you, I can do this surgery, I know that, and I want to do it for you. and we scheduled it for the next day. So it was like, it's that attitude of, I'm going to find my way through this. So just go along with me, please. So that's it. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, so in 2 minutes each, 2 minutes, 2 tips to anyone who's in the room who has either they've started the book, it's done, or they have the idea. They're somewhere on that trajectory, and they're dreaming of getting a book published in the world. What would you say 2 tips are on what you would say to them? I'm going to have you go first, Polly.
I know it's scary, so I'll say tip number 1, remember you're not alone, okay? You're not alone. There are people that can help you. So at the risk of sounding too self-serving, okay, let's just forget I do what I do, but you would come to someone like me and say, this is what I want to do, what do you think, right? And then we might have a talk with you about maybe you could go in that direction or that direction. Oh, never thought of that. And I would say, I want you to talk to a writing coach. And in fact, Don, I'd like you to talk about your touchstone experience, because the first move with a writing coach is to figure out what your messaging is and how to get there. And you think you know what the story is, you might not know what the story actually is. Yeah. Okay?
That's good.
So know that you're not alone, and this goes hand in hand with it. If you want to do a professional job, you've got to work with professionals. You really do. I'm working with a guy right now. I hate to throw him under the bus, but no one knows him, so why not? So the first time, writing a fiction book is very difficult, right? You've got intertwining plot lines. You've got to build characters so people are invested in them and things like that. So you need an editor. And he's like, I don't need any editing. And I want to say, well, Ernest Hemingway needs an editor, but if you don't, then okay. And it's just like, gosh, he might have a great idea, but he's got to invest his time into doing it right. Just do it right, because you can't back up and do it again. I've had people do that. Can I just do it now and get it up on Amazon, see how it does? And if it's doing okay, then I'll back up and actually do it right. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There you go.
I can leave you with that.
Wow, she's a hard act to follow. Well, let's go back to the beginnings. I would say one of the words that I used to use with Sarah a lot is niggling. I get, niggles, something will niggle my mind. If you have an urge, a whisper in your ear, a niggling, a nudge that you feel like there's something here that maybe I need to explore, talk to somebody about it. And I'm not the only one out there who will talk to you without saying, here, sign on the dotted line after this phone conversation. It's like, it's something to be explored. And if you keep it in your own head and you never talk to anybody about it, I can tell you it's probably not going anywhere. And then, someday you might look back and go, gosh, I really wish I had done that. And now, for whatever reason, I can't. I missed an opportunity. So I would just say, take advantage of when you have that inner urging and listen to it and just see if there's something there. That would be number 1. And then if you do have a book and you want somebody to look at it, have an editor look at it. Have somebody who actually does it for professionally.
As opposed to a friend.
Right, as opposed to a friend or a relative or somebody, because chances are a friend or a relative is either going to tell you it's horrible or what are you thinking, especially if they have some part in the story. They're going to go, you can't tell that story. Or they're going to go, oh, it's wonderful. I think, it's just great. You could just go with it the way it is. And it may really be wonderful, but there's always, what Polly's brought up that I do, is there's always depth that you can't see for yourself. I'm an editor. I wrote my first memoir. I used an editor. There were parts that he showed me, and I used a man on purpose because I wanted, I just wanted somebody who was not a female to read my story. And there were parts I had jumped over I worked on that book for 10 years. I didn't think that I jumped over anything, and he showed me where, gosh, Don, I really want you to tell us more about this. So it's, you're going to get depth and just the full picture of it when you work with somebody else. So that would be my two things.
Can I say something too?
No.
Oh. Never work with an editor. Editors really are professional story builders. That's what they are. Even if it's nonfiction, 10 ways to fill in the blank, they're still a professional story builder. We think of editing when we're not in this world. We think of editing as the red line from the teacher, comma here, you didn't put your end quotes, something like that. And that's the very, very last part of editing. We have to structure the story, so a good editor is a professional story builder. So I just wanted to bring that up.
So good.
And we don't have to know what the subject matter of the book is either, do we?
No.
So.
That's deep. Think on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Annie.
Thank you.
I have a thought. I'm like, how many seeds of books are being planted here right now? I think that's great. See what comes. You guys, thank you. Oh, can I get your mics? Ryan, Astrid, Amy, our last three.
Yeah.
That's great. Right? Hi. I'm going to put this on you first. May I?
All right, yeah. Is it too thick?
Where's Amy? Oh, she's also taking photos, doing multiple things.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
She's going after you. So it's Ryan and then you. Okay. Okay, perfect. I'll talk to you in a second. Okay, so Deb is going to stand when we have 2 minutes left.
Oh, great.
Okay?
All right, so this is Ryan, everyone.
The oversharing server.
No, not oversharing. This is Ryan, who there is when she and I talked, I was like, oh, girl, we could go in so many directions with your awesome self and awesome story. But we're going to do our best to give a little taste of the many hats this sister is wearing. She is a creativity consultant. And when we met her, she had driven through a snowstorm down to Colorado Springs with her art on the top of her car, attached with some bungee situation, hung the art, she didn't know it was going to be snowing, so that was stressful, hung the art in Colorado Springs, and then came back to La Loma to work tables, and had been through quite a lot before. So I want to pick up the story there and ask you to talk about all of this beautiful work and how you bringing creativity into the world in the midst of hard with the recent loss of your mama.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for allowing me in your space and to be here. Thank you to Sarah and Table 13, the ladies that I met.
Table 13!
You were at Table 13.
That's so good.
Obviously, I wasn't doing my job very well that night, but I was on my way out of the restaurant. So, but like she said, I recently lost my mom a month from today or yesterday. And so it's been a very crazy end of an era for me. About a year ago, I took a sabbatical and went to be a server for a year so that I could focus a little bit on my own stuff that I was passionate about doing. And so that's what I was doing at La Loma. It was like 3 days before I was finishing there that I met these wonderful ladies. But I spent a year, and I call it tearing it down and building it back up. And there was a lot of things in my life that I felt like it was the time. So I took that risk, went there for a little bit over a year to take the time to do those things. And recently I heard a quote that said, although my mom's vessel is gone, her guidance is still here. And I think that that is a perfect testament to meeting these ladies and being in this room right now. The art was another part of that. I had just manifested that I was going to have my art and to be seen somewhere. And I was leaving a coffee shop, my favorite coffee shop in Colorado Springs, and the lady said, "Hey, aren't you that artist?" And I was being bashful and was like, "Oh, I like to do art." And she said, "We have an opening for art if you want to bring it next month." And so I had done it, and I didn't know my art pieces wouldn't fit in my car with frames that I had put on them the day before. And so, I mean, you do what you got to do. But I took my art up there. That was a huge thing. Speaking is another thing that I was looking to getting back into, just because I believe that I have a story, and the gifts that I want to share goes along with that. And so everything is in alignment. And it has been, there's been a lot of challenges in the last year, but it has all aligned me to be in this moment right here. And this moment is huge in my life, just to be able to speak, you know, of my mother's legacy and the things that she gifted me with as being her daughter. And so art is a passion for me. I identify more as a creative because I have many outlets of art and expression. And so you'll get to learn a little bit about those.
Okay, so will you talk to us about a couple of the favorite things that you are about creatively in your work right now? And include, if you would, sister, the ways that we can be a part of some of them.
Yeah.
So the book and the catering, for sure.
Yes. So in the year, my vision was to start a clothing brand. And so much came from just having that thought in my head and having that idea in my head. And it became so much more than that. And I say that because it allowed me to tap into all of the creative things that I wanted to do. I feel like that was kind of a limiting belief system that I had before this year of, if I have something tangible, then I have something to prove. And so in doing that, I found in this last year that I actually have a lot more gifts than that I was pushing back, just because of the fear of that. And so I started working on a brand. It's called I Am the Brand. And it's the creative consultant thing really is just a fancier way of saying that I have ADHD. And so it just sounds more professional and attracts more people. So that's all it is. And under I Am the Brand, I have started to slowly but surely launch a few different aspects. And the art pieces that are in Colorado Springs are part of my art line. It's called Statement. And the whole mission statement is a tribute to, and it's an expression of all of the things that I've been through in my life. I really started to realize that I needed outlets because of the life that I was born into. I lost my brother in 2018, and so that kind of started to, how am I going to express these things to get them out of my body and grow through what I went through. And so art was one of those things, but I always just said it was a hobby. But I didn't realize that it was one of the gifts that I was born with, and I needed to share that. And now with my mother being gone, it's so much more important to me to share that because she gave me those gifts. And it is my legacy and her legacy through me to be able to do that. So Statement is one of them. I recently revamped my social media, so there will be good stuff
on there.
Beautiful.
I'll send a link in our follow-up.
There's
it's
only
really
like
awesome.
5 things, but it will get there. And then another aspect, I was a chef in my past life for the last 7-8 years. I graduated culinary arts school, and so that was another way of me trying to find how I wanted to express myself artistically, and the art got kind of taken out of it, so did a few things in that, but now I'm revamping my catering stuff, and that's what she's talking about. It's called Smorgas, and it's just the only offerings that I'm going to offer is grazing boards on whatever your setup is, and that allows me to artistically express myself through color of food and the beauty of food and nourishing foods, and that brings people together. And then the other thing she was talking about was in this last year having ADHD and not wanting to, and just wanting to naturally tap into that and make it my superpower versus something that I think a lot of people kind of feel like hinders you from stuff. I said, this is going to be my superpower. And so that's why I was able to talk to them for so long and serve my other tables. But Yeah.
Totally.
Exactly. And so the last year I spent going through, because my mom had been sick for a while, and I had went through, there's a whole other story to tell of all the things that I had went through in the last year, and I realized that I needed to put systems into place to be able to get myself through those things and to not let my mind go too crazy, and to really tap into those things and let them become my story and part of who I am. And so I spent a while creating 45-day Art of Becoming challenge book, and it's 45 days. You create your own routine. I guide you through it of how you create it, but you create it for your own life, and then you follow it for 45 days. And it's really an art of becoming. It's not just a workout plan or a meal plan. It's all of those things, and it's digitally created for you to, it has a lot of my digital art in there as well. So 45-day plan, you create your own, you follow it for 45 days, and then you see the progress of what you did by just following your routine. Because I was telling Sarah, I had a misconception that if you become organized, you can't be creative. And I thought that it would hinder me from my creativity, but what I found is that it kind of freed up that creativity, because now I have time and space to allow those things to come out instead of feeling like I'd never accomplished anything. So that was kind of the purpose of it, and it changed my whole life.
So good. Okay, what is the one last thing you want to leave us with if we have another minute?
Yeah, I think that when I was thinking about this event, I was really reflecting on how I believe that everybody is creative, and I don't think that that necessarily means, and that's why I have a hard time saying I'm an artist. I believe that I create, and I believe that I was born with gifts, and I've always said I was built for something bigger, and I believe that those gifts are meant to give, and when you receive a gift, I believe that it's meant to give to somebody else. And so to believe that you're creative is to believe that there's beauty in the world, in my opinion, and everything is created from scratch. And from, I'm just even looking out here and seeing the beauty that's created here is created because people are creative, and they were born with creativity. Can come out in so many different ways, and I live my life in a color palette, so everybody's outfits, everything to me is just finding new paints to paint with, and I've been inspired here, and I'm so excited to take that and translate that into my own art and my own creativity.
So good. Right, wow? Right, wow. Thank you. Thank you, girl. All right, coming up right now, I have a quote from Rumi I wanted to read as Amy's making her way up here. Let yourself be drawn by the pull of what you really love, by Rumi. And what I love about that is it's not about the hustle, and kind of what it just connected me with what Ryann was just saying. Like, there is work to do. Yeah, like she put her paintings on the top of her car and drove down to Colorado Springs and then went back to work at La Loma, but there's something about like allowing ourselves to be drawn and then to do the work, but it's different when you've been drawn and something's been ignited in you, which is what I see in your life. Thank you. All right, this next up is Amy. This sister has been part of, we have been friends. She's my date. She always helps me remember dates because I don't remember. How long have we known each other?
Since 2000.
See? 2000. So we're old. I'm really old. She's much younger. But she has been a part of community, just friendship, but also helping me to do the work that I have been brought onto the planet to do. So I asked her, because I know there's her tagline is to her company is we all have a story to tell, so tell it well. Did I say it right? Mm-hmm. Exactly?
We all have a story to tell it well.
Okay, yeah, not the so. Take the so out. Words matter, people. So, I know a lot of people in this room have stories to tell. So I wanted AIM to come and help us learn how to tell our stories well and just share a little bit about her mission that is just making such a difference in the world, that is connecting service with needs in the world that we all have to be able to do our work, and also looking to make the planet full of more light and love, because that's what she brings. So
thank you, Sarah.
Yes. Oh, wait. Sorry.
Right, to get started.
Yes, we're going to do this.
So I want everyone to stand up, and I want you to just shake it out with me. Shake it out. If you've ever done a photo session with me, I always have you shake it out before you get started. And then we're going to give away some cards. So did everyone get a card in their bag? So those are my cards. And the story behind those cards is that basically I created them to help women in poverty start their own business. So 10 cents from every card goes back to something called the Whole Planet Foundation, which gives microloans to women in poverty in over 70 countries in the world. So, and they're all my photographs on the cards, so I hope you guys enjoy. But we're going to do some giveaways, so who's ready? Donna looks like she's ready. Okay, so what's my tagline? Did anyone remember? Yeah, Lisa. Okay. Okay. And how long have I known Sarah? Okay. Right there. All right. So, as Sarah said, you guys can sit down. Just feels good, right, to kind of stretch it out. It's been an amazing afternoon. And Sarah, thank you again just for inviting all of us to be here. And so grateful to have you in my life, my friend. So I want to start with a quote. And then I think Sarah had a question for me. But the quote is, "Pay attention to the things you're naturally drawn to. They are often connected to your path, your passion, and your purpose in life." And I think that for me, that's been such a just cornerstone bedrock of my own creative story. I started doing photography when I was 22. Started on my first overseas trip to Europe. Just was so, captured by all the amazing architecture and, who loves walking the streets in Europe and checking it out. Came back, assisted a wedding photographer, minored in art in college, worked at a collective gallery, which was amazing back when Santa Fe Art District was not so expensive. And I really was also just like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life? I think I want to do photography, but how does this come together? Then I started working at Whole Foods. My first job at Whole Foods was in the coffee department. Thank God that only lasted for a month. And then they had an opening in the marketing section. So I did marketing at Whole Foods for 10 years. And that job, speaking of path, really helped connect the dots to help me start my own business, because I did the job of 10 people. So who has their own business? So you know that you're always doing the job of 10 people. And then I was laid off in 2015, so it'll be 10 years this September. And it was brutal, and I spent probably 5 months, walking around Wash Park, going to lots of coffee dates with people. And I had this dream of being an entrepreneur. I had a dream of having my own business, and I was like, okay, this is the moment. So I officially launched on March 3rd of 2016. And by launch, I mean I posted on Facebook that my website was live. So, but it was the start of an amazing adventure. And, Sarah's been with me in that process, Lisa, and just such dear friends. And Lisa mentioned this earlier, but I just want to say it again, that she said she didn't want to have regrets, right? And I talked to her right before I started my business, and she said, Amy, I just started because I don't want to have regrets. And that really stuck with me, because life is short, right? My dad died last year, so I totally get a little bit of what you're going through. So really, over the last, it'll be 10 years next year, I really have stepped into what I think is a mission to empower women and empower women in business. So the two primary ways I do that is through the cards. Has anyone heard of the Whole Planet Foundation? They're a part of Whole Foods. Okay. Has anyone heard of Kiva?
Yeah.
Okay, so similar model. So they go into underserved communities around the world, also here in the United States. Essentially work with the women, give them small business loans. The women I met in India were wanting to, sell soap, sell goat milk. So they just needed a little bit of cash. And we all need an opportunity, right? And these women, they have no opportunity. No bank will work with them. And so what's amazing is they'll do small business loans, usually the equivalent of $174. And essentially, the women come together once a week. They pay back the loan collectively. And typically, they do anywhere from 3 to 4 loans. So it's a really practical and tangible way to help women and their children and their husbands and their grandpa and grandma move out of poverty, right? So that's tangible way number 1 is when you buy a Tell It Well card, you're helping to support the Whole Planet Foundation and women in poverty. The second is Tell It Well brand sessions. So I started doing headshots, anything really to pay them rent. But then I was really seeing this need as I was working with a lot of women entrepreneurs of what do I post on my social media? Raise your hand if you have
She chose to bring because she is a creator of beauty. That's what she does. So she told me that when I opened the books, I think there are 3 or 4 of them, every single page was filled with my artwork, 2-year-old artwork. And she told me the story that she saw me sitting on the floor and that somehow I had gotten into these books. And I was just so happily and blissfully drawing all over them. So it was astounding to see my own, 2-year-old vision. And I hadn't really realized how fundamental creativity was for me. I made it a profession, I work with people, and there's a lot of people in the room that I've worked with, but that is part of my pivotal story that I didn't even know about. And from that, what I took from it in hindsight is just this amazing piece of generosity from my mother, because beauty was something, she could have looked at that and just been mortified and grabbed them away from me. And it just made me realize that, she has always infused us with a sense of generosity, and that it's really important to create beauty. So I have taken that into my work. Some of you have seen the stones that are here. That's all a part of how I do creativity. First, you give somebody something, and then that is the portfolio for me, is sharing and being generous with what you give. So that's the story of that. Fast forward, what I also wanted to share with you is not all the ways that I'm creative or do this or how it manifests. Sarah covered that beautifully. Thank you, Sarah. But recently, as I get older, I realize that I want to live creatively, and I have done that through my whole life. I worked in the film industry. I worked in Africa. I've done all sorts of things. But last summer, I decided to do a summer of yeses. So I basically said, I am not going to be in the shadows. I'm not going to be afraid of things. I'm going to say yes to everything that makes me jittery, including this moment right here. So I got myself into all sorts of situations, but it was a beautiful, exhausting summer. including like, I don't know, singing in the buff with other women in the sauna. That took guts for me. And one of the things too that I did in the summer of yeses is I started an Airbnb in my tiny house flat. It's about 500 square feet. I've done a lot to reduce my footprint. And I thought, hey, how can I take this international, this global passion that I have for my parents and make it something I can fund. So I started this Airbnb. I have figured out how to just really infuse it with hospitality. I recently won an unsolicited award, like Best in Show nationally, for this tiny little space. And it's all about beauty, hospitality, and I love it. And so I just wanted to share that that is how I'm living creatively. I'm funding global travel. In fact, I'm going to the north of Italy, northern Italy, and southern France this year. And every year I try to fund one stay, let's say six weeks out in the world where I can live and play, because I've always wanted to do that. So that's what I wanted to share with you in terms of, living creatively. So I believe, who was it that said, creativity is not about art, or not only about art. And I think we all just get stuck in, I couldn't draw a stick figure if you asked me to. It's not about that. For me, creativity is about, I was trying to articulate this too, or figure out what this meant, but creativity is about expressing yourself and infusing whatever you do with meaning. That to me is creativity. And you're going to experience that for yourself this afternoon. So that's all about the connecting ordinary dots in extraordinary ways. And with that, am I at time? Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to switch to my, now I'm going to invite you to, so just to confirm, we're doing both back to back now, right? The dots and the, okay, just give me 1 second here too. So you'll notice that you have cards in front of you, so if somebody doesn't have one, I think there's some extra ones in the basket. There should be heads galore everywhere. If you prefer to write with a Sharpie, so I'll give you a moment to gather those. And what I thought I would do is give you an opportunity to connect your own dots in a simple, fast storytelling way. You said, Donna, that a story needs time, needs time to unfold. This is the opposite. We're going to do this very quickly because what I'd like for us to do is to let our heads go away and just tap into some essence, the essence piece of who you are. So my request is that you have 3 dots on the card. I would like you to think about 3 pivotal things in your life, experiences. It could be with your grandmother, it could be positive or negative, it can be, think of 3 experiences that have brought you to this very moment in time, here in this room, that have made you who you are today. And whatever comes fast, go with it. And so I'll explain why we're doing this afterwards, but I think it's just really important to drop in. So I'm not quite sure about the time, but let's say a couple of minutes, and then I'll come back to you. Does anyone have any questions?
Are we writing this on the right now?
Sure. One thing I will say is that for anybody who wants me to, if you put your address on it, I will mail this to you afterwards, and I'll explain why. So just leave you can write wherever it makes sense, but it's important to write underneath, each of the 3 dots so that you can clearly see what those 3 things are. And they can be completely different things as well.
And it can just be one word for each.
Yes, anything, no one else is going to see it for now. Just, you will know when you see that word, what does this mean? Like, I would put immigrant daughter or something as the first one. I might put, my biggest flop, the interview I flopped, which is on mine actually. So it will end up looking like something like this.
Would it be something that happened in your life, or
something you experienced, something that changed you, that made you who you are? So for me, what changed me was, for example, my parents immigrating, I have this passion for global travel. And we always went back and forth to visit our relatives, and that means that now in my life, what brings me the most joy is travel and crossing cultures. Does that make sense? Yeah. Actually, if you could keep the back blank, that would be better, because I'll have another prompt for that. Let me know when we're close. So very quickly, just 3 words. Is everybody ready, or is it need a little bit? That's okay. Some people are writing novels, some people leave a little bit of room somewhere on the top and bottom. So next, for those who are ready, hello? For those who are ready, put one word or some indication of what did you learn from that, from each one of those, above or below.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What, for each experience that was pivotal, what did you learn? One thing you learned from each of those. And now, is everybody here? There's 3 things. So you've just connected ordinary dots in an extraordinary way. You could have pulled out 1,000 things, and if we did this again in a month or a year, it may be different, it may be the same. But you could go into any room, this is something I've been struggling with, as you saw with my story. You can quickly drop into this creative process to access something as beautiful as this. And these are the things that make you remarkable, even if there's pain and failure in it. And you can confidently say to somebody, hey, I will be the keeper of, I hold what's global and cultural at the top of my list, so I'm going to be looking for that in your brand. So in my sort of thoughts, I would say, something about generosity, and then the last piece, the failure piece that I didn't share with you. Somebody asked me, what do you want to be known for? And I couldn't answer it, and I bombed on the interview. Well, 10 years later, I'm still thinking of that. I made a career of asking generative big questions, and people pay me for that. And so if you take these 3 things and weave them together, even just in a conversation, you will be sharing what's remarkable about you. And that's what I do for my clients. I help them to express what's remarkable. remember all the possibilities that are in your life. And so what I love about it is like notice the shape you chose, how it feels, the texture. That's all about creativity. And you have access to it right in your pocket. So take it with you out into the world, and thank you.
I literally put my bottom. What we're going to, for anyone who can stay a few minutes longer, we're going to put music on, grab some food and drink. There are pens for people. And what was the word that they were going to write on here for anyone who has time to stay a little bit or do anything at home?
Well, I was going to encourage you to think about this day and one thing that you took away from this that really touched you. Drop out of your head, what is the one thing? And if it's something, and I was going to encourage people who are a little bit on the courageous side to actually draw something on the wall with a golden pen. So I do have those that I can pass out. Sorry about the time. I'm sexy. That's another story. I have to say that. I'll send you an email and explain that one. Make your mark on it. That's part of expression. So it can be a symbol, a dot, a squiggle, a line. For those who prefer words, write a word. Or you can choose, and that's a creative act too, choice. You can choose to keep it blank. And so that you can infuse it with whatever you want. So I have 36 pens. I would love to offer them to you. You can take it home with you. Just be careful when you first use it. Do it on a napkin or something very thick. You just want to sort of activate it. It first will come out strong, and that's my gift to you. So I will.
So can I pass them out?
Yeah.
Okay, so as Ashley passes them out, I want to also point out she bought, these rocks, and then she herself painted this gold streak around it because this is just a picture of how she be, what she does. So it's 4 on the domes.
So yes, this came out of inspiration after we were in a small group conversation about text. I just wanted to share that because it really goes along with so much of what you've been saying. Like, Astrid brought that she was coming to speak, and then we brainstormed with her, and then she sent us these rocks that night. It was so beautiful. Wow. So again, born out of how should we?
Yeah. So y'all, we are going to wrap up. We hope and pray that there were some seeds planted in your life today. I will be in touch with follow-ups with all of our storytellers, ways you can stay connected with them, social media if they've got it, all the things that make life good and connected and fun. One nudge, take one thing from today and take one step of something that this day has sparked in you. Okay, and then the last couple things. I will follow up since I don't have time now to tell you about what's coming in the remaining. We have quarterly gatherings for Cultivate. This is the first of a series of quarterly gatherings. I'm just going to say what our next one is for those who weren't here last, for beloved. Fatima is going to be cooking Ethiopian food and sharing her story, which must be a book and probably a movie someday. So that will be in July, so keep an eye out for that. I will follow up with an email. So there's going to be so many fun ways to keep this fun going. Faiza reminded me when she was looking at there are some seed packets on the runner for anyone who has a garden or a pot that you can plant your seeds in. Take that as a way to plant the seeds, metaphorically in the reality of your everyday, the soil of your everyday life from today. And then I have my books here. I want to say, anyone who wants to take a book for free or pay what you can, the prices are on there. Lisa will help you with that. The prices
Fatima, could you do the ululation as our closing? Can you stand up? Okay, so for those of us that have known Fatima for a little bit, one of our favorite ways to come and go with Fatima is this ululation. Linger, hang with some people. If you need to roll